Every week that I do this, I always find a tool that's better than the tools before. And today, you and I are going to be taking a amazing, fun deep dive on one of the best indicators that I've ever found for free. Let's do it. Binance recently just released sentiment data on the traders that use their futures contracts. Currently, they have 10 instruments that you can trade. They just published the Longshore Ratio for all of these. Now, the first thing you may think if you know about futures is, wait, whoa, Bennett, shouldn't this be 1-to-1? You know, shouldn't this always be 50-50? Not exactly. This Longshore Ratio that comes from Binance Futures data, and I'm going to share this link with you guys as per usual, it actually looks at the net long and the net short accounts. It is true that open interest-wise, which is currently on Bitcoin on Binance, 137 million, that means that there's 137.5 million shorts and 137.5 million longs. Okay. But not all longs and shorts are equal. One trader may be short with 1 million, whereas that 1 million order was actually generated from 50 traders who went long, right? So what this looks at is what proportion of accounts are long versus what proportion of accounts are short. Now, this data, you can actually trade immediately. There's no like, oh, maybe this means that or this means that. This is much more just concrete. This is the data we're looking at, and here's how you trade it. So here it is. Let's start off with BTC USDT Longshore Ratio. What do we want to do? We want to be ahead of the crowd. How do we be ahead of the crowd? Well, if we're in the minority, then that means that we are probably on the right side. Why? Well, when you see a long-short ratio of something like 1.62, where 61.78%, that's close to a Fibonacci, where, is this what a Fibonacci? Oh, close though. Where the majority of traders are long, what that means is that the position sizes for longs are smaller than the position sizes for shorts. It has to be. The position sizes for shorts are actually larger here, and if we look at all of the accounts, most of them are long. What does this signify? Well, this signifies that there are a lot of retail traders long, and that signifies price is probably going to hurt them in some way. Look at here. We went from a long-short ratio of 1.59 up to 1.62 at 1440 to 1445. So let's say, what could we have done at 1440? Well, first of all, before I show you what had happened, what do you think you should have done? Short or long? Right here. The answer is short. At 1440, this actually preceded the fall. Look at that. Now, this data is reported at the minute. So when this says 1455, that doesn't mean the information from 1455 to 15 o'clock. That is the direct sentiment that's reported at the time of 1455. So at the time of 1440 to 1445, what we find is that the long-short ratio on this candle was actually very, very, very long for Binance. This is a sign that price is probably going to fall. Now, you may say, wait, well, this may have been hard to play. You know, this is a beautiful time to have shorted. I mean, you just made a 1% profit at 100 times leverage. Don't do that, but if you do, that's doubling your account. Now, what we see here is that a really good time that we probably should have gone short isn't when it's relatively high or relatively low. First of all, let me show you guys what I mean by relatively high, relatively low, because I never, ever, ever want a trader to look at something like this. Case in point, let's go to link. Oh my God, the ratio is at 2.84. That's so high. There's so many longs. I short. Absolutely do not do that. No. What you need to do is screen for what is relatively high and what is relatively low. So I'm looking at link. I'm looking at the 1 hour. Let's look at the 4 hour. Oh, well, it just froze because there isn't enough data for that. It did not like that. Well, I'll play with you here. And so 4 hour wise, what do we see? Well, currently Bitcoin is in a very high long-short ratio. It's actually near some of the highest it's ever been. What's relatively low? Relatively low is around 1.07. So what we've just done, guys, is we're not saying it's high or low. We're saying relatively. Now, relatively, if this keeps increasing, that's going to be the highest long-short ratio that we've ever seen on Binance Futures. Now, what we can do, let's say we go to ES. This may seem pretty crazy that it's at 3.84. There are so many longs and there aren't that many shorts, right? Well, now we have a relatively high values around 3.84, a relatively low values, around 2. Now we can use that data to go on the short term and say, okay, so we're relatively a bit higher because if we're using a bounds of around 2 to 3.8, you know, we're closer to 3.8 clearly, you know, here. And it looks like this would have been a good time to short. This would have been a good time to short because, oh my God, just so many longs here on EOS. And if we go look at EOS, actually what had happened, let's go look at what was going on. Yeah, it's just going to hurt all the longs. This would have been a great time to have shorted if you would have actually known how to play with this. 1330, this is getting really relatively high. It's getting to 3.18, which is definitely higher than average, higher than normal. Now, 1330, where was that? Well, that was here. Now, we always have to look at the open and not the close of a candle because the reported data is at the open. So that would have been reported to you at this horizontal line. Make sense? Okay. So had you noticed this and just market shorted with a 0.04% fee, what percent profit are we looking at? You're currently 1% in profit. How would you have known to have shorted that? Well, you look for relatively high value when you short because you know that a lot of longs are about to get crushed. Okay, there's another way we can do this as well that does not involve relatively high and relatively low. Now to get there, let's go to Bitcoin and let's look for spikes and drops. This is a spike. 1.53 to 1.57 is a massive spike in a 5-minute period. That's telling me that either a lot of shorts are closing or a lot of longs are opening. Basically, retail is getting pretty bullish here. Now, what we know is that at the exact time of 1315, that is a time where we would want to have shorted. Well, newsflash, let's go to 1315. Okay, ooh, this is so interesting. I can't wait to talk about the recent price action. I just want to show the previous, and then we're going to talk about all this because this is just so fun. 1315 is here. So right here would have been your signal to have shorted, right? Why do I say that? Well, we just had a pretty large jump in the Longshore Ratio. When you use this, you don't want to just use this by itself. You need to use other factors as well. And I provide those other factors in books that I've written and in the learning course. I have a order flow learning course you can go check out. I also have a price action and volume ebook you can check out as well. All those are going to be linked in the description if you want to learn more about those topics and use that to supplement your sentiment trading. This is just, can't wait to dissect that. But yeah, this would have actually been a pretty good time to have shorted if you are a scalper. You're looking at a profit of 1.5% and your drawdown, well, like 0.08. So why does this work? Well, because I'm not just going to give a strategy and not tell you guys why it works. This is not common. You will not typically have on the exchange that you're using full data on the longs and shorts. You should not have access to that information. No. When you do have access to that information by every 5 minutes with no delay, you're going to be able to actually see how people think about the market. And you're going to be able to actually take advantage of a lot of traders losing money. Because if we know that most traders lose money, then if we know which side most traders are on, we can bet against those traders and potentially make a profit from profiting off of the killing of the majority. As sick and twisted as that sounds, that is the market. This is interesting. We had that spike in the Longshore Ratio and price fell. I think we can all see that, right? But watch here. What just happened, guys? What just happened? Watch this. Let me go back to the 5 minute. This is beautiful. So what we actually end up seeing is we were at 1.62 and we were at around, a very high Longshore Ratio right down here. But let's look at the open at 15 o'clock. So the 15 o'clock data. What changed? 15 o'clock, we dropped from 1.62 to 1.59 in a 10-minute span. So people are actually getting out of longs. Now, this means you should take profit on your short or you should hop into a long position. To be completely transparent with you guys, this may not have been a good enough signal to have gone long, and then have that. But it is a pretty good signal to close your short because if you had shorted at that candle where it gets really high, this is not looking good. This is looking like people are actually beginning to conform to your trend. Maybe the game is up. Now what we just saw, guys, is a massive drop in the long-short ratio at 15:05, 3:05 p.m. Eastern time. Why did this occur and what does this mean? Why did this occur? Well, the really fun reason why this occurred is when price went up, That's going to allow any longs who had bought at these prices to close their positions. When longs close their positions, when the retail longs close their positions, that's going to lower the long-short ratio. You're getting rid of trapped traders. The second thing is it's killing shorts. When you kill a lot of shorts on a 1.5% price move upward, what ends up happening is that long-short ratio ends up going up. Okay, I think I'm even confusing myself here. It's not as complicated as I think I just like misspoke or something. The first thing that I said is true. This drops because longs are getting out of positions, out of break even, but we actually see that shorts are increasing here. That is what I meant to say. Why are shorts increasing? Because traders like to bet against the trend. This is telling me that this is quite bullish. Yeah. When I see traders closing their positions, traders are smaller retail traders are hopping into shorts. Yeah, price is going to probably keep going up. But I do want to see the data at 310 because currently, and price did go up, because currently we have 2 minutes and 30 seconds before we get the next batch of data where we can actually see how traders reacted to this 5-minute candle. Because I bet you that there was a good amount of reaction because on Binance, we currently have 511 Bitcoin traded. So this is quite bullish to me. How do I know this is bullish? I'm just using sentiment. I'm just looking at this massive drop in the long-short ratio as a bullish sign because I like to bet against the trend. I mean, not bet against the trend. I like to bet against the majority of traders and bet with the trend. You can use this also for other coins as well. One of my favorites is XRP Sentiment. It's just really clean. I mean, just really, really clean data here. You can see that we had a massive drop. Oh my God, that's a large drop. 395 to a 3.44. Jeez. So the long-short ratio just really dropped there. I'm really curious what happened at 1440 and 45. So 1445, what was going on here? So at 1445, when that data was announced, we see that just so many longs are closing. This right here is a sign to buy. And the sign would have been, unfortunately, here, because that's the open price of 1445. Had you bought, you get a bit of a drawdown, but then you get that. So that actually would have been a pretty good signal, and I would take this position any day because it's not going to hit my stop loss if price is only going 0.5% down. It's probably not going to hit my stop loss at all, and now price is up 0.88. So XRP actually even gave you a pretty good signal, not really using relative. Again, we can find relative sentiment by going to the 1 hour or the 4 hour, saying, okay, this is actually pretty relatively low. But what we want to look for is spikes and drops, which is what the strategy we just used here. Massive drop is quite bullish if we're using the long-short ratio. Had we done that, we could have bought here. I mean, pardon me, bought here, and this is just a beauty. Now, I would expect Bitcoin's price probably went up more. I'm saying that because the long-short ratio here dropping is just really screaming bullishness to me. Yeah, and here's price. So in 30 seconds, we are going to get data. In 32 seconds, we're going to get more data on what Binance traders had done. Now, make your estimate now. Do you guys think that the long-short ratio increases or decreases? Do you think that more shorts are coming in, i.e. the long-short ratio is decreasing? Or do we think that more longs are coming in, retail longs are coming in, i.e. the long-short ratio will be increasing? I actually think that we're going to get a further drop in the long-short ratio. I think that more retail are going to be shorting this than longing it. But let's go see. So to refresh the page, you actually have to click a different time frame and then click back to 5 minute, and here's your answer. Yeah, it dropped low. Oh, that's XRP, pardon me. It dropped lower. Wow, that is so interesting. It dropped to 1.47. We are getting a massive drop in the long-short ratio. This is quite bullish to me. You know, I think that just a continued drop in the long-short ratio is just going to fuel price just either consolidating or rising. Maybe we get a bit of retracement, but for me, this seems quite bullish. Unless we get a big change in sentiment, I'm not expecting a big change in the trend. Again, I'm going to end this video here because we've been talking for a long time, or really I've been talking for a long time, and I can only do that so long. But here's some key takeaways that you can use. One, use other indicators when you do this, guys. You cannot just look at this alone. That's suicide. Two strategies that you can get from this, looking at relative high and relative low values for any coin in sentiment. And the other strategy that you can use is spikes and drops in the long-short ratio itself. You know, 1.53 to 1.47 is quite the drop, actually. And you have to put that in context of the trend. So to me, this is quite bullish. because this is telling me that retail is betting against the trend, meaning retail will probably get crushed when price goes even higher. Now, if you interpret this a different way, that's fine. You know, it's all down to how you see it, because of course I'm not a guru in any way. I don't want to be. I don't want to do any of that. I just showed what I've learned, and I hope that that helps people. But if you have your own way of trading, then I would love to hear it. I would love to hear other people's versions of how they view sentiment, because, you know, that's just going to allow us to learn even more. With that, go check out the links that I have attached. Happy trading, and I'll talk to you guys soon.